We are back on The Real News. We're going to be joined at the top of the hour with Congresswoman Virginia Foxx, and we're going to take your phone calls probably after the first break. The next hour, you can call in and ask your Congresswoman a question. That is what this broadcast is for, so the people can speak out. We were talking about the traitorous and treasonous Timothy Geithner that is right now meeting in Greece with the Bilderberg Group. Apparently, we'll be able to verify that next week. Selling out the American people. This gentleman, we want to give you just a little bit of background on him. Go ahead, Brian.
Timothy Geithner, Treasury Secretary. Geithner was president of the New York Federal Reserve Bank and was intimately involved with the multi-trillion-dollar transfers to international banksters. He was also a former Clinton administration Treasury official. He has also worked for Kissinger Associates and also held senior positions in the IMF. He is also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
What a surprise. Oh, is he? Go ahead.
Geithner wrote an article in the Financial Times calling for a global regulatory banking framework and called for the Federal Reserve to have an instrumental role in this new framework. Geithner wrote this piece right after the 2008 Bilderberg meeting, where some of the most powerful figures in the world of central banking attended. Not only did Geithner attend, but the attendee list included Ben Bernanke of the Federal Reserve, Henry Paulson, then Treasury Secretary, Jean-Claude Trichet, President of the European Central Bank, Robert Zoellick, President of the World Bank, and other high-profile bankers. With the who's who of central banking attending last year's Bilderberg meeting, it's highly unlikely that what Geithner is proposing here in the Financial Times article was not discussed at the meeting. It's no secret that the true objective of the Bilderberg meeting is to steer the world into accepting a global government by establishing a new global regulatory banking framework. This will inch the planet ever closer to a one-world currency operating in a cashless society where microchips are used to facilitate transactions. Make no mistake about it, this system will not be good because it is controlled by a bunch of criminal psychopaths like the ones who attended the 2008 Bilderberg meeting.
And let's remember, we reported just a few weeks ago, and correct me if I state anything wrong, Timothy Geithner had said in front of Congress he didn't support a one-world currency. Then, just mere days later, in front of the Council on Foreign Relations, his treasonous buddies that are selling out the American middle class lock, stock, and barrel, that he did support a one-world currency, and if I remember correctly, to be managed by the IMF.
Yes.
I mean, what we're trying to tell you here, people, is if you look at the news like me and Brian do and follow it, and it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, you will find out that the puppet mainstream media tells you a vision. That's why they named the television. It tells you a vision. It don't tell you the truth because they don't report this kind of stuff, and it can be confirmed that it's the truth. Timothy Geithner was he the head of the New York branch of the Federal Reserve? They never get someone to be Secretary of the Treasury that's, you know, John Doe from down here at the local BB&T that might support the middle class. It's always a Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg meeting, scum that are willing to sell out the American people. And this is the same thing again, and we're reporting to you the events that have transpired. You can verify them for yourself. And again, we will update this next week and probably be able to tell you quite a bit more. And if we can have Jim Tucker on, I'm sure it'll be very interesting. Something I wanted to touch on, this was reported in the news this past week. We have reported this kind of stuff over and over and over. This is being reported by the Flint Journal, May 15, 2009. U.S. Special Operations Command to use Michigan town as training ground. This just keeps escalating. We see more and more of it. Correct, Brian? We've reported it time and time again. Black helicopters, crowds, worst fears of a New World Order are coming true. Now, this is what the report says. The military is invading Burton, but it promises to only stay a week. The U.S. Special Operations Command is using Burton as a training ground for military exercises. There must be a shortage of area in Iraq and Afghanistan for the military to practice. They didn't get enough practice there, apparently. Sometime over the next day or two, a military spokesman said residents may see low-flying helicopters buzzing overhead. People may even catch a glimpse of special operation forces. But the goal is to keep the exercise low-key as possible. Chances are that most people won't even see them, said Naval Lieutenant Nathan Potter, a spokesman for the exercise. Citing safety and security concerns, the military is mum on details about the exercise, including the size of the force being trained. There's also no word on where exactly the operation will take place, although Potter said soldiers could be working in neighborhoods and industrial sites. This is incrementalism to indoctrinate you to accept as normal military troops on the ground here in America. We're seeing military troops being used with the highway patrol. We're seeing military troops after things such as Katrina. Military troops after the shooting in, Alabama. We reported it just a few months ago. More and more and more.
There was a military presence at the Kentucky Derby a few weeks ago. You see that?
Exactly. Military presence at the Kentucky Derby. We are being conditioned to accept this as normal.
I'm not, and just clarify that, folks, I'm not talking a military presence where they, do a little display, hey, this is what we're about. No, we're talking about soldiers walking around with machine guns just like police would. They're out.
Yes.
They're out.
Yes, we're not talking marching in a parade, playing trumpets, carrying flags. We're talking about them going street, doing mock exercises. Even mock gun confiscations have been done here in America. This skinny C, which has been actually on America for it. It is to condition the American people to accept it as normal. People need to stand up. There's been some events because of people like Alex Jones getting the word out that have been prevented. There was one, I believe it's in Ohio, we reported months ago, and they ended up not doing that event. Jim would probably know. I know we talked about it, but it's just an amazing story, and it goes totally unreported by the mainstream press. Now, this was a local newspaper is where this comes from. The local newspaper of that city or town will report it.
And we've also seen all those traffic stops with the military involved, like they want in California.
California using the highway patrol. Here in North Carolina, we reported Blackwater, which now they changed their name to that goofy name.
G or something?
G or a letter or number or something. Something I guess that people won't recognize. Blackwater kind of sounds scary, They want to blend in. On Air Force here in North Carolina, mercenary group.
It'll take the American public 30 years to recognize their name.
Yeah, just kind of drifted off into obscurity now. But we reported they were being used by the local sheriff month after Katrina. They popping. As following. Scotland's already bought off. The population was reported this past week.
I saw yesterday. We're about to go.
They've turned their attention to this whole big bunch of nothing about the Miss America or Miss America, and whatever it is that.
And torture all over the Capitol now with Pelosi and
Obama. I'm going to release the photos. Oh, now they're too dangerous to release. Why do they photograph this? Number one, if they're so barbaric and inhumane that they are torturing people, why is it that they positively have to photograph it? I mean,
why do we see our soldiers posing with corpses, smiling and making these obscene gestures and sexual references? It's disgusting.
Making nude pyramids. Why do they even engage in this? And then if they are so demented that they need to do this kind of activity, why do they film it? Can't that only bite you in the rear eventually? I mean, I don't understand. It's just a bizarre story. But now they can't release the photos. It might endanger our troops. Why did they even bring it up, though? Wouldn't they have thought of that in the beginning? I mean, are they that dim-witted? They didn't give that any forethought? Unbelievable. A break, next hour, break, next hour, break, next hour, Virginia Fox. We're going to be taking calls, and we'll give out the number. We're going to start with a few questions, then we would like for the public to call in, ask your congresswoman a question. Again, the number, if you want to go ahead and write it down, 1-866-986-6397. The website's therealnewsradio.com.